What's up, everybody? One Fun Guy podcast in the studio. I'm just waiting for Kelly. We're going to do the pod call tonight. I'm going to share this out. I hope everybody's having a good Tuesday night. Normally we go live on Thursdays, but I was an idiot last week and I said, let's go live on Thursday, 7:30. And Kelly goes, hey, isn't that Thanksgiving? I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. So my bad. So we're going live on a Tuesday. We're making it happen. It's not normally our normal night, but, we roll with it. Got the Vigilance Elite hat on, so shout out to my man, Sean Ryan. If you guys haven't checked out the Sean Ryan podcast, please do that. He is awesome. So if you guys are not familiar with Sean Ryan, check out his podcast, Vigilance Elite, the Sean Ryan Show. Awesome. He's kind of where I got my start in podcasting. He was fantastic. I am going to share this out to a couple people. And hopefully we get everybody, going on and see, what's happening. We're going to make it a fun night tonight. I'm going to try to get as many people involved in this as I can. So if I send it to you again, don't worry about it. Ashley, what's up? If you guys are on, please say hi. Follow me. I'll follow you back. We want this show to be interactive. We want everybody to basically be a part of this. I'm going to start sharing it out before Kelly gets on. That way, when he hops on, we can actually do it. We're basically going to get a bunch of people involved with the show tonight, hopefully. It's going to be awesome. That's always the goal, is to get as many people as we can while we're on here. If you guys are on, please say hi. This is what we're trying to do. So, this is awesome. Kelly looks like he's hopping on. Fran, what's going on? If you guys are on, please say hi. Please be a part of this. We want you guys to be interactive and social with us. If you like what you're doing, or if you like what we're doing, please hit the like button. Ellie, what's going on? Thick Positive Mama, what's going on? You guys are great, right? You guys are fantastic. Thanks for hopping in. I know we interact with each other and we do our kind of shows and we're live and we do all our stuff. Kelly's taking his time. But yeah, we're here, guys. So we're doing it. It's real. It's happening. If you guys could do us a favor and share the show too, we would really, really, really appreciate it. We're doing the best we can, guys. We try to make this the most fun and interactive show as we can. We want you guys to be a part of it. We want everybody to be involved. We love everybody's support. And if you guys are on, feel free to interact with us, ask us questions. Sylvia, what's up? I see that you're on. So again, guys, we don't have any Bear Huntress, what's happening? We don't have any goals, right? When we go live, we just want to have fun and be interactive. We love the fact that you guys like our show. The likes are awesome, right? It's really fantastic when we hit 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 likes. Again, when you guys send gifts as well, we really, really appreciate it. You guys don't have to do that for us. We love the fact that you do, but it's not a requirement, guys, to hang out with us. So we really, love the fact that you guys are here for us and you support us the way we do our show. We really do. Follow us and we'll follow you guys back. That's just how it goes. We want a giant community here. Ooh. Ellie, what's up? You are epic. Absolutely epic. That was the coolest one I've seen so far.
That's awesome.
So what's going on, buddy? What do we got to chat about tonight?
Yeah, well, we got a bit to chat about for sure. But before we get into that, I just got to say that I'm so extremely excited that I got tickets for Melvis and Napalm Death at the Metro in town. That's going to be so damn good. That's not till May, so I have to sort of curb my enthusiasm a little bit, but I'm really psyched about that. I'm really hyped up also about Blood Incantation. I'm gonna go see them on Tuesday. They're at the Metro. I've been, it's not a band that I've been listening to a whole lot, but a lot of folks on my account, and please follow my account. This is one thing, guys. Just so you know, that this PodCult thing, it's the dual account for the two of us, but we both have our separate ones. So please
Yeah,
follow.
if you follow me,
our
guys,
super
follow
fan.
Kelly. I say that all the time. He's got really, really good stuff. So if you guys like what I'm doing on my own, we kind of came together to talk about hard rock and heavy metal and some punk and some old school and some everything. We both have our separate things. But when we come together, it's one, guys. So if you like me, like him, follow me, follow him, and vice versa. We want this thing to be successful. That's why we do it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so yeah, I'm going to see Blood Incantation, which is what I'm really excited about. It's an odd band in case you don't know about them, like they're like deep death metal one
Hey,
second,
what's up?
and then they switch over to be Pink Floyd all of a sudden. You know, like they just switch.
Mhm.
It's really cool. So oh, look at you getting the hat.
Yeah, Ellie, she's been epic tonight.
Ellie is
Sylvia's awesome. They're my OGs, right? Bear Huntress is new, but I'm glad she's here. She's awesome. So welcome aboard, guys. We haven't even really broke the ice in the show yet, and we're getting all these likes and gifts and support, guys. We love it. Thank you so much. It means the world to us.
Before I get going into the topic that I wanted to talk about tonight, I just want to put out a bit of a promo for there are two bands that are good friends of mine that are playing at Sound Growler in Chicago on December 21st. They're called If I Were the Devil. There's one band, and the other is Beneficium.
Okay.
There's some crossover between band members there, but they're playing in Tinley Park, which is South Side Chicago, I guess, and Sound Growler, December 21st. That might even be the winter solstice. So that would be a pretty cool thing if you're into the death thing, and you're not afraid of the word Satan. You know, like they do talk about Satan.
No, send me the date. Maybe I'll take a ride with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So that's absolutely. I'm considering going on Saturday, maybe. Stabbing Westward are playing with some other friends of mine called Bellhead.
Mm-hmm.
They're good friends of mine. So I might be going out on I got a TikTok hat. Anyway, so if you want to hang out, come to those things. I'm really excited by it. It's so cool to be able to go to shows I was not able to in my previous life. So it's a very good thing to be able to do these things now.
Right.
So anyway, the topic at hand, what we talked about a little bit was to get into the business of music.
Yeah.
And if you're an artist, at various levels, how does the industry work? And the thing is that there are some things. Okay, so I'm gonna ramble a lot. I'm gonna go off on a lot of rants.
No, do your thing.
But fact of the matter is that I'm 51 years old. I was in bands when I was in my teens and in my mid from my teens to my mid 20s,
Sure.
And nothing happened, right? And then I went away from the music thing for a long time, but I figured that basically at age 50, it was like one more shot. I'm gonna do this, and what I ended up doing was that I signed up and paid a shit ton. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of fucking money to join this coaching program that tells you like, okay, so this is what you got to do. Here's how the industry works, and here's how you market yourself, and here's how you can make an income, and an income that's significant enough that you may or may not be able to quit your day job.
Right.
So in that sense, I'm not talking about how do you become Taylor Swift. That's not the point. Although, it's a ladder, right? You start from starting your band to getting your first gig, and then from going from the bar scene to playing bigger venues that can hold a couple of hundred,
Sure.
up to, when you get a record label or, turn into an arena band or whatever. But I think that the principles still remain throughout all these stages. And
So let's start with this. Before you get in too far, why don't you tell us like the furthest you've gotten in the music business to where you were in a band that was like the most successful you've been a part of, and then try to like give us a kind of a timeline of what happened from then to where you're at now. Because it's really important that people know, like, because obviously I've never been in a band. I've had a few musical journeys in my life, but like you are trying to focus on kind of making it a career thing more so than I would never be able to do that. So kind of take us back to the beginning, like start us like early, where you peaked, where you thought you could have made it, why you didn't make it or why you didn't think you made it, and then obviously get back to where you're at now with wanting to try to do it again, right? Because you're never too old to start, right? And I always say this too, like, Ray Kroc started McDonald's at 63 years old.
Yeah,
Right.
or
So-
the Colonel, or there's a lot of example of people that got started late. Yeah, I mean, for me, I have zero credibility in terms of saying that this is what I did in order to achieve success. I have zero credibility in that. I was in bands, a lot of them, and the biggest success I ever got was that I was in a punk rock band called the Let's Go's. And if you look them up right now, you'll probably find a Japanese girl band called that, which is pretty funny because our last release was a Japanese release, and they kind of tend to play the same kind of music. So I don't know if there's a relationship there. But anyway, we released a couple of albums. We had 5-6 EPs come out or whatever, right? But the funny thing is that that particular band's success came from being probably the band that we cared the least about in terms of effort. Like, we weren't trying that hard, but that band was the first one where we tried to get attention. So we sent out demo tapes to record labels and all that stuff. We're talking 90s now, right? There was no internet.
Right.
And if there was, it was in its infancy, and the music industry definitely had not caught on at all. I mean, we know that, the music industry, they lost their shit when Napster came out, and that was like late 90s, so the music industry has been very behind in terms of technology.
Sure.
But but having said that, my very first band that I was
Thank you,
in,
Dallas.
yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm getting lost in my own head here. I'm trying to gather my thoughts in terms of history. But my very first band, when I was 15, maybe 16. I don't remember. Let's see. Yeah, 15. The one guitar player from there is now playing with a fairly well-known band in Europe called Centinex. Another member of that band was in a band that released an album under the name of Autumno that people still remember, even though it was released in '93 or whatever.
Okay.
The guy that replaced me on drums when my tenure ended ended up being a professional musician, full-time musician in death metal bands that you would definitely know. Dinosaur.
That's awesome.
I don't want to mention his name or the bands that he was in, because it's a little bit controversial there. So I don't want to bring him into the conversation. But he definitely was a full-time musician. So I have witnessed it more than I have been personally in it, right? But it wanted to say that too, that knowing the mistakes that I've made and getting the coaching that I'm getting now from folks that know what the industry is like today
Okay.
is really awesome, right? You know,
So
so
can you?
I have never been successful. I
Okay.
can't say, you know,
So
but
what
I do know.
are you allowed to like without giving like any secrets away? But can you indulge us into what kind of like coaching you're getting? Is it like more so how to make it? Is it like a marketing thing? Is it like a music thing? Is it both? Is it like
I think no, I don't feel bad about that at all,
okay,
and I can totally give away what I'm learning, right? Because you know there are so many details that you have to get right. So you know the principles are easy, and the team that I'm with, they post their stuff online all the time about what the principles are,
okay,
and I agree with them. But the thing is that the principles, some of them are constant throughout, you know, all time. Like that's how it works. And some of it is how, you know, the relationships are different. So let me give you an example, right? So the first thing as an artist that you always need to reach is to get the attention, right?
right,
You need to get attention from the right people in order to sort of break it, right?
sure,
The difference from then and now is that back in the day, you need to get the attention of someone at a record label, while now it's you need to get the attention of a lot of people online, right?
sure,
So it is, you know, you will get the attention of that record label if you're looking to get a record label, which I'll get to later, by the way. It's not a necessity anymore. Really, like you can do fine on your own. Um, but um, but the leverage that you're looking for is still based on attention, and the attention
right,
is very much easier now to get than it used to be, because now you can start your social media accounts and you have data. You can say, I have X amount of followers, I have X amount of average views on whatever I post,
right,
and even if you're not looking for somebody else's attention to pay attention to those numbers, it means that, you know, if you have, you know, 2,000 followers in your hometown and you say that I'm going to play a gig,
hmm
you know, if 20% of those come out, you know, that's a pretty good turnout along with everybody else, right? So so you can create your audience a lot more now, right? But it is the first step is still to get attention. That's always it. It used to be that you had to get attention by getting the right gig at the right time with the right people in the audience or whatever. But nowadays you can create your audience and you can create your stage. And it doesn't have to be a gig at a stage at a venue anymore where the right people are gathered. But now it's like you create your stage online with you yourself being relatable and putting yourself out there.
So you're basically marketing yourself is the best way to describe it, right? You're your
That's
own marketing team, you're your own development team, you're your own production team, you're a one-man show, basically.
That's how it starts, right? And let me skip ahead a little bit too, right? The way that it works now is that if you want to make it in music, the least important variable is talent. Like if you're a good musician and you produce good music, great. But that's baseline. That's assumed, you know? Like people don't give a shit. You know, like there are tons and tons and tons of great musicians that make great music that are awesome at what they do. But can they connect, right?
Right.
That's the big thing, right? So how do you create a connection? Well, you put yourself out there in a way that people today relate to you, right?
Right.
You know, so you know, ultimately, I mean, I'm enjoying doing my TikToks and all that stuff too, but that's building a relationship to, you know, gathering people, you know, having
Can
a
I ask
tribe or whatever, right? And then eventually I'll put my music out there, and
Right.
then I have a tribe there.
Can I ask a question? Do
Yeah.
you think the connection with your audience is your music, or you personally, like what you do and how you interact with them?
I assume, or I didn't do my job right. When I put myself out there as me and express my opinions, approach, and tastes and all that stuff, that the people that become my tribe are close enough
Okay.
to the music that I put out there. It's more important that they connect with me than the music. It's much easier for people to connect with the music if they have connected with me first. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, because the thing I've noticed with a lot of musicians, right, is that you don't know if they're replying to you or if their team is replying to you, but they give you the satisfaction of knowing that somebody's responding to you. So if you say, hey, I'm a fan and I like your music, and somebody responds with, thank you, we love having fans like you, even though it might not be them, you feel that connection with that artist, right? Because they're like, holy crap, they responded to me. Now, it could be a marketing team, it could be somebody else doing it, but the idea behind it is the fact that you've made a one-on-one connection with the musician where you normally wouldn't think that you would make that connection with them. Even if it's not them, you have the facade of believing it's them.
Yeah, and that's so super important too, right? You don't just put yourself out there on the social media and hope that people will connect to you. Is that you have to connect back, right? You don't build a tribe by having people just, I am saying one thing and then people will come and that's the end of it. No, that's not how it happens. It's a conversation that's ongoing, right? I can give you a couple of examples, and that is, my wife is a huge Star Trek fan. Her favorite actor is Doug Jones, who, among many other great roles on the planet, but he played Saru on the shit. It escapes me, but he was also this guy in Labyrinth, and he was Shape of Water and all that stuff, right? So. She can comment on his stuff, and he comments back to her, and that makes her so happy.
Sure.
Like that makes her feel warm inside, and that makes her even more dedicated to him as an artist. I yesterday posted a thing that was like, I said, thrash is dead. Obviously, it was dead wrong.
Right.
But one of those bands came back to me and said, yeah, we're dead, dude, or whatever, right? And it's like, they're there, they're engaged in what's going on. And that matters more than the actual music, right? To put it in perspective, the music obviously makes a big difference, right? But when you get that connection that they really do care and they interact with the audience, then all of a sudden it becomes personal, and you get a level of commitment that you otherwise wouldn't have. So that is what's different now from then too, because people are feeling personal connections with artists more now, which I think is one of the greatest things in the music industry right now. Because it's exhausting, but it's great.
Yeah, because I personally feel, right, that like if you have a band that you follow and you like and they support, right, it's very difficult nowadays with social media to have that band have negative press, right? That people come out and hate on them, and you're like, why is this the case, right? And I saw it the other day, you pointed it out to me, that Jeffrey Nothing from Mushroomhead is starting his own version of Mushroomhead. And he put it out on Facebook and got blasted. He actually made another post himself and said, I'm not starting Mushroomhead 2.0. He says, it's my variation of Mushroomhead. He's still friends with the original members, a lot of them. And he supports J-Man and Waylon doing A Killer's Confession, with Stitch now joining the band, who was an original Mushroomhead member with J-Man. That you know, they were the original guys that started Mushroomhead out of 216. And so Jeffrey said, I'm not trying to make another Mushroomhead. He goes, but if you like Mushroomhead, you're going to like what I'm doing. And some of the original members of the band are going to be in my band. So he's like, I'm not trying to duplicate what already was. He goes, if you like Mushroomhead with me in it, go listen to the first 4 albums. He's like, that's what you get. He goes, but if you like what I'm doing outside of it, then you'll like my new project. And I thought it was really cool that he came back out and said, listen, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. He goes, if you like the Mushroomhead as it is now, he goes, go and watch them. If you like A Killer's Confession, go watch them. If you liked my band, Hatrix, come watch me. He goes, all I'm doing is creating a variant of Mushroomhead with the original members. He's not going to wear the masks. He's not going to wear, he just said, he made this statement that he's starting Mushroomhead, his version of it, and people hated on him for it. And he's like, I'm not taking away from Mushroomhead. He's like, Mushroomhead was my band. He goes, I was one of the 6 guys that started that band.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see both sides there, right? You know, one is that, you know, since he left Mushroomhead, what has it been? You know, he's tried a number of things and they haven't really taken off. I mean, I'm not going to say that he's been unsuccessful, but nothing has reached the level of Mushroomhead, right? Sure. So it may be like, you know, yeah, shit, I'm 50 years old now. I need to, you know, like I need to build up my savings a little bit. You know, you can't blame the guy for that so much, or maybe it's also like, you know, nothing I've done since has been really that good, and that was I had the most fun.
So I think what a lot of people don't know, and he said it, and it was really kind of heart-wrenching, right? But his wife passed away. And he said, I want to make music now again because I don't have her anymore. He left music for her. She was his outlet, and she passed away. And that's why he's doing this. So for all the people who don't really know about Jeffrey Hatrix, that's his real name, Jeffrey Nothing in Mushroomhead, is he left Mushroomhead and became like Christian. He found his faith. He was speaking in a lot of churches and, you know, talking about his drug abuse and his alcohol abuse, and was very open about it. And took a bunch of hatred for it, right? Like people were like just really hating on the guy, right? And again, we always talk, it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are, right? But if you're going to support somebody, support them all the way. That was my point that I was kind of going with this, right? Is that like nowadays it's so easy because we have access to social media that you can basically be a keyboard gangster miles away from somebody and talk all kinds of mad shit about him. But like, if you don't like them, don't support them. You don't have to belittle somebody or hate on somebody. Move on, right? And so that was kind of the big thing for him, was that like the reason he got back into music is because his wife passed away. And he's like, I don't have a creative outlet anymore, and I want one. And people were just really hating on him for doing it. And it's like, I don't understand why. Let the guy be. If he wants to make music, he's going to make music, and that's what it is. Now, there was a spinoff of Mushroomhead when he left called Tenafly Viper. They had a very Mushroomhead-like sound without being Mushroomhead. It was Hatrix, and like 2 of the original members of Mushroomhead started that band. And they got a ton of like notoriety in Cleveland, where they were from, but it didn't catch on nationwide. They weren't obviously as big as Mushroomhead was, but in their own respects, there were 3 other bands that these guys were in before Mushroomhead, right? They had 10,000 Cadillacs, it was like a rap band that they did. They had a project called Super Buick, which was another like big, like it was kind of an industrial metal type thing. But those were the projects before Mushroomhead. That's how these guys all started in Cleveland. And then J-Man was in 216. That was his band.
Yeah. But I think what we're getting into in context of where we got started a little bit is, you know, like how does the public react to this, right? You know, so yeah, I mean, it's great that he wants to get back into music, and he has an opportunity to do that for whatever reason. I mean, I have a much less touching version, and that is, yeah, I divorced my wife, and now I can my then wife, and now I can be allowed to make music or whatever, right? Yeah. You know, so it's not as dramatic as her passing away or whatever, right? But I guess there's a perception of the public when you have been there, right? As in, what are your motives now? Like, are you just chasing the money, or what's the thing? Like, you can say things, but I don't quite believe it, and that's unfortunately up to the public. That's sort of how it works. But that is, again, how it works, unfortunately, right?
That's it,
So,
right? It's
so that's another one of those differences in the music industry between now and then, right? Uh, just imagine if social media would have been around in 72, 73 with Led Zeppelin, right?
right.
Like all the shit stories that came out of that with today's values. I mean, Led Zeppelin would have been banned a long time
Oh,
ago.
absolutely, right.
It doesn't matter whether it was the band or the road crew or the management or whatever that did bad shit, but they would have been so banned so long ago, and they would have been blacklisted from everything.
Right.
But that's not what happened then, because they were a product that produced a sellable item for other people to make money on. And that is still true, but the nature of that still has changed, right? I don't mean to detract from what you were saying, but I'm trying to tie back into the folks that are trying to get into the music business now and trying to do it themselves, and want to think about. It is different than what it used to be, and some people do get it wrong, because what it used to be was that you need to have this air of confidence around you, and you need to have an ego, and you kind of like, you have to think of yourself as bigger than everybody else, in order for people to say that you have star power. That is not true in 2024 or 2025 or whatever, right? It is not true, because everything now is so dependent on likability, relatability, accessibility, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that level of detachment, when it's like, I am bigger than you, I'm better than you, I'm more talented than you, and you should be grateful that I am providing my gift of talent to you, you're gonna fucking tank, and people are not gonna like working with you. If you're being a dick, don't be a dick. Point number one is the tenacity to get to the point where you get the attention. That's what we talked about before. Build your audience, build your social media stuff, relate to people, build your brand, have people, relate to you, put out your music to them, have them like, you along with your music. And then, the rest of the industry will pay attention to you. And that's when they will say, okay, so what's your deal? Like, you're obviously successful. You obviously connect with people. You obviously have great music, whatever. So what do we do now? Like, we need to get to fucking work, right?
Yeah.
And when people say, okay, you have my attention, I can take it to the next level, what do? You listen. That person that knows it, that's been there for probably a couple of decades, knows what's going on, what works today versus what worked 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They know what works today. So what you do is that you listen. And when they are talking, you pay attention and you're present and you believe in what they have to say. If it goes against your beliefs that they're saying, do something that I, as an artist, fundamentally disagree with, feel free to walk away, because then it becomes inauthentic. Right. So then you break that rule number one, the relatability and building your audience, right? If you start to become inauthentic, you will lose what you've built up already. So when you get to a person that says, do this, do that, and it makes sense to you, then you fucking show up. That's it, right? And be ready for things to fail. Be ready for what you're being asked to do You can go play a show or two or three, or go to some press junkets or try to pitch things, and you know, 9 out of 10 or more will fail. But the thing is that you're still waiting for the one that'll take you there, right? But
Right.
as long as you pay attention, and you show up and you do
Yeah.
the work, that people say that this is what you gotta do.
Sure.
If you say that I'm not willing to do that, they're gonna give up on you. They're gonna toss you aside.
Right.
There are 1,000 more people just like you. There, that's one thing that we know from the metal scene too. Like we can go
Sure.
to a bar anywhere in Chicago that has a metal show, and they'll have 4 nobody bands show up, and you and me will say that 2 out of those 4 could easily have a record contract, could easily play somewhere great. But why aren't they? Well, for a number of reasons, right?
Sure.
But that's the thing, is that the volume is there in terms of talent and quality and all that stuff, right? So it is like, who do I want to work with? Who is worth it to
Right.
put in this money, time, and effort into to get there? And those are the people that are willing to put in that effort, and are nice to work with while doing it. It's like,
Right.
I'm so fucking tired today. My kid was crying all night. I
Yeah.
had an hour and a half of sleep, but you asked me for a 7 a.m. meeting. Here I
Right.
am at 7 a.m. What do you want, buddy?
So-
that's, I mean, it's hard to do, but those are early sacrifices that you have to do when you're early in your career too, right?
So time and money, right, obviously are on some people's sides and not on other people's sides, right? If you
Usually they're
are
the same, right?
right, if you are a young musician and you're starting out, what would you say is the time that you would put into what you're doing versus when you realize that, okay, now I actually have to start making money and what I love isn't doing it for me? Would you encourage people to keep persevering and try to get through that? Or like, because there's so many people that obviously when you're a teenager, right? And you don't have responsibilities, your parents give you an allowance, and you might have a part-time job, you're going to school. It's very easy for you to donate your time, right? To practicing, to playing, to jamming, to learning, to honing in. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Then when you start hitting 21, 22, and you're still basically a club band or a garage band, and now you're really not making money, what do you feel would be someone's mindset to say, you know what, I am going to pursue this, and no matter what it takes, I'm going to make it? Versus at some point when you realize, okay, I have to get a job that's going to pay the bills, and I can maybe tone back a little bit on my music where I'm not playing every night. Maybe I'm just playing the weekends or I'm playing my off nights. At what point do you think that somebody comes into that mindset to be like, I should really probably focus on the real world, or if I should keep trying to live my dream of being a rock star?
Well,
And I mean, everybody's different, right? Obviously, I'm kind of asking a loaded question, but from your perspective, at what point do you start? Do you think somebody would have to either kind of say, you know what, forget everything, I'm going to do this, or be like, okay, the real world is hitting in now, and I need to make a living doing something that's going to pay the bills?
yeah, no, I think that's the problem for the most part, right? It's the imagination of what can be and the perception of what the real world is, right? I think that there's a place where you can go where it's like, this is what I want the real world to be. So there's the delineation doesn't exist, right? So that means that if I want to be a rock star, right, and it seems imaginary, then it is imaginary. But if you think of, I want to be a rock star and I'm going to achieve this, and here, here are things that I can do to get there, right? If you stop thinking about imaginary versus real world, if it's
Sure.
part of this, if you get rid of the imaginary part of it, right? I have an ambition, right? There's definitely a life work balance, right? Um, as in, like, I have 3 kids between the ages of 1 and 5. I have a day job where I work from 9 in the morning till 6:30 p.m. And I have a band that's taking, I have band practice that takes up the rest of my time, and
Right.
maybe I'll get some rest. So that's when you have to start to do time budgeting also, right?
Right.
Like where is my energy worthwhile, right? What is it that's going to give me benefit? And how can I use my time, the most efficiently? Losing sleep is not one of them.
Right.
Staying up till 2 and getting up at 5, it's not one. Because if you're tired all the time, you're gonna make poor fucking decisions. And so the rule number one: keep taking care of yourself, like, because you have to be aware of what you do, but you have to be conscious and you have to be efficient, right? If you're a father of 3 with 3 children under the age of 5 or whatever, like, I'm just making up a scenario here too, right?
Sure.
But you have a partner, you can sit down and have a talk with them and say, hey, I'm trying to create a better life for us, and I think that life would be in the music that I make, right? If
Absolutely.
your partner, if your partner believes in you, and because it could also be that
Right.
you have that dream, but you
Yeah.
fucking suck.
Right.
I think that I'm a guitar player, but I can barely make my way through, like, Sweet Home Alabama type of thing,
Right.
right? Maybe the best thing for your partner to do is to say, sorry, it's not going to happen. The baseline isn't there.
But also in that same mode, though.
If there is that belief, if there is that partnership where it's like, yeah, I really do believe in you as a person, as an artist, and I want you to be happy. So that's another way of identifying whether or not you're in
Right.
a good relationship or not. But let's not go there. But it's like, okay, I need to spend 2 hours a day working on either writing music or building a social network, or doing all these things that will
Right.
take me to the point where I can make this dream, this imaginary world, as you put it, reality. Because as soon as you start thinking about it as imaginary, then it's unobtainable. It's an imagine. You imagine it.
Yeah.
It just needs to become real, right? That's a thing, right? Like, so for me, when I joined this program with these people, right, I have a pretty well paid job. I have a pretty good salary, whatever, right? I don't need to get by, create a better life for myself in music. I just know that if I was doing music instead,
Right.
I'd be a much happier person, and I would,
The
much more
passion is real, right?
right?
Yeah.
So it's not about the money, but how can I replace that? To other people, it is that, shit, I'm a McDonald's worker and I can do way fucking better than this if people would only listen to my music, because I know that I'm making good fucking music. I'm a great rapper. I make good beats. Everybody around me tells me that this is great
Kevin
shit,
asked real quick on a tangent. He goes, "What's your favorite death metal band?" He said his is Bolt Thrower, which is awesome. I said mine's Obituary. Who's your favorite death metal band?
Mine? Entombed. I gotta
Okay.
say Entombed. Not. I think mostly for the trajectory, and
Sure.
they're friends of friends type of thing too.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not that matters too much, but it's one of
Yeah.
those, like,
I mean,
just
it's
because
such
it's one
it's
town
such a
over
hard
type of
like
thing,
question, right? Because like I love Morbid Angel, right? I love Obituary. I love 6 Feet Under. I like Mortician. I mean, there's so many genres of like death metal that like of bands that I could say, like Meshuggah, right? I'm a huge Meshuggah fan. So obviously, In Flames. Some people might not call In Flames death metal. I'm a huge In Flames fan, right? So there's such like a wide. But if I had to take one death metal band, Obituary is always kind of the one I gravitate towards. I don't know why. I just always liked them. They were, really fresh on the scene. They were doing stuff that nobody else had been doing at that time. I really, really kind of, loved everything about the way that they were making music, the way that they projected themselves. Obituary, and they always had awesome album covers, right? Like Obituary is just awesome, right?
So tying back to this, so I have a little bit of a story, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating
No, no.
myself because I've
No,
said this before, right? But it's also a lot about doing your homework and putting in the work and getting it done, right? So one of my best friends on the planet, I found out many years after I started to get to know him, that he was one of the biggest tape traders in Sweden, if not on the planet. Like he had so many shelves of tapes in the mid '80s from various bands. One of so he was famous in Sweden, and one of his subscribers, if you will, right, was Nicke Andersson, who was a metal drummer, guitarist, whatever, right? So he asked my buddy, send me the best of your best and tell me why, So my buddy made a comp tape and sent it to him, and Nicke listened to it, and that's basically what turned into, or how Nihilist, how he wrote music. Like he took the best of the best from Chile, from Brazil, from the US, from fucking Malaysia, from Norway or Germany or whatever it was. Like these compilation tapes that I got from my buddy. It was like, okay, so he analyzed it and he synthesized it and compiled it into like, okay, here are the common things that are good. Here are the things that work. Here's why this is good, or whatever. And he started to write songs like that, right? According to his own taste too. Like, here's what I like about these bands. So there's Nihilist, who later turned into Entombed, and formed Scandinavian death metal, basically, right? So it's another one of those things. It's like, pay fucking attention. Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on? What is that people respond to? And what are the things that people respond to that speak to you too, right? So you can create the things that people respond to in an authentic way. So again, just tying it back to that, because the success of Entombed, and Nicke said as much later on too, that he thought that my buddy was one of the top 5 most influential people in death metal, just because of his willingness to share those things. Like, here are bands that I like. Can you send me a comp tape of what it is? And he did. And then all of a sudden we've got a band like Entombed, or At the Gates, or Grave, or Unleashed, or any of the other great metal bands that were subscribing to his comp tapes. Yeah. Right? Like, it's an analysis of, pay attention to what's going on, see what's happening, be prepared for it, put in the work.
Yeah. So Kevin asked another question. He said, how do you feel about clean singing in extreme metal, right? I personally don't have a problem with it. I actually kind of like the dual vocals myself, right? I love what Opeth does, right? They can go from growling to opera in a matter of seconds. So I love what Opeth does. I love what Gojira does, right? Gojira can basically have a pretty much flatline growl to a clean vocal to a growl. Killswitch Engage is phenomenal at it, right? They can basically go from, Adam basically doing the most extreme metal growls to Howard singing in his fantastic over voice I love it. I think it's great. I mean, I can deal with the barking and the growling and the mellow tones all day long, right? That doesn't bother me. You know, those real guttural vocals, you know, like listening to Cannibal Corpse with Chris Barnes, just, you know, basically, you know, grunting into the microphone all day long. I don't have a problem with that. But I also think there's something soulful about clean vocals in music, right? You know, yeah, In Flames does a great job at that, right? They're very good. I also think that you know, you get bands that kind of float in and out of that kind of stuff, right? Which is weird when you get like black metal bands that do it, right? Like Behemoth comes to mind. Cradle of Filth just started adding a female opera singer in their stuff. So you got Danny doing these screechy black metal vocals, and they have an opera singer right next to him. I think it sounds great. Personally, I like it. I know it might not be the common, you know, answer to that. You know, a lot of people kind of like that old school death sound, right? Where it's just all growling all the time. But I personally think a good mix is it's soulful. It brings a lot of, you know, power into the music. That's just my take on it.
My opinion is that, you know, if you talk to Van Gogh, should tell him not to use the color green. You know, like, you know, a band, they're the artists. If they want to do clean vocals for their art, and that what feels right for their music in that particular part, fuck yeah, go for it. You know, don't worry about what people are gonna say. You know, fuck the, you know, like, you know, especially if you're In Flames or people that,
Yeah. So
you know,
the thing
or
is,
maybe that's even, you know, like, I've been listening a lot to. I told you I was going to see Blood Incantation on Tuesday.
yeah,
I haven't listened to them very much, but I have in the past week, and holy fuck, you know,
Right.
like, you know, so they do like grind parts with, you know, the sort of the standard death
Yeah.
thing, but then they just snap, and all of a sudden it's Pink Floyd.
yeah. And
Right.
so there's bands
And
like
so many people. So I'm sure that
Right.
a shit ton of people are saying that. What the fuck are you guys doing? I just wanted you to keep going, and but they're just saying,
I mean,
"Fuck it, we're doing,
so-
we're doing
so-
what we want to do."
right. So
You know?
like Moonspell's
So-
been doing it for a while, right? Moonspell can go from extreme death metal to goth in about 30 seconds, right? Samael's another one, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the
they're
band
great.
Samael. Samael can
P-
basically
ones,
do
I
the same
forget.
thing, right? They can go from piano to basically the meanest, chunkiest guitars to organ, back to piano, to heavy drums and bass, to piano again, and it sounds fantastic. Samael's been doing it for 30 years. I don't really think it's nothing new.
See, but you know, metal's been around for 40 plus years, right? You know, if someone can do something in metal that surprises people, you know, that's fucking awesome to me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm using a lot of F words here tonight, but really, like, you know, it's been something that's been experimented with and gone in so many directions over 40 years or more, and it can still be surprising to people. I applaud that. You know, it's the people that are saying, no, you can't do clean vocals. You know, they're the ones that should be, you know, quieted down, if you ask me. You know, I think that the longevity of metal, and the reason why we still talk about metal, even as a top genre of things, right, is because it's vital, you know, and it's, you know, it brings something to people all the time, and it's, you know, and the reason why it's vital is because people are still discovering it. You know, and even if the bands are discovering things within themselves when they're making the music, it's like, oh, this will be weird. You know, like if someone comes up with a weird thing during rehearsal and they're like, what was that? But hold on, it was kind of cool. Let's try that again. You know, like that's an amazing thing to happen, and that is That is what
I
art is.
right.
You
And I know
know?
going off topic, right? But we've always had bands that have took their ancestry and put it in music, right? So you have bands from Norway and Sweden and Denmark that have had that Viking blood in their family where they put it to the music. You've had, you've had basically Hispanic culture, right? Tribal culture put into their music, right? Sepultura did it. They have used that for a very long time. There's a lot of Asian bands that are out there that a lot of people don't know of. Psy is one of them. Psy is a black heavy band, but they put Chinese and Japanese music into their songwriting, right? They utilize a lot of the strings and a lot of the stuff. So it's nothing new in the metal scene, right? Where people take their ancestry and put that sound into their music. So for somebody to say that, doing something now is a new phenomenon, I think a lot of it is just undiscovered. Bands have been doing it for a while. They're just not recognized. They're not known. So when you have a band, right now, the one that comes to mind is Trivium, right? Matt Heffy has been tapping into his Asian roots recently, and he's been adding a lot of those instruments from the Indochina culture into the music. It's nothing new. That's been going on for decades where bands have incorporated that kind of music into their thing. But because if you didn't know those bands, but you know who Matt is from Trivium, right? Now he's opening your eye to a whole new culture movement. But it's like you said earlier, it's your job to do your homework, to find out other bands that have been doing that long before Trivium was ever a band.
Yeah, and
Right.
again, it's what I was getting at in the beginning. It's the connection, right? Like it's like the way that you create great stuff that people can relate to.
Yeah.
Are things that are genuine and authentic.
Sure.
So he feels that genuine connection to that culture and incorporates it into the music, and it's being communicated out, and people get it, and that might make it easier for when they start to hear like this weird Indonesian influence or whatever it might be. I'm not familiar with his exact heritage, right? But when they start to hear that coming in, it's like, yeah, no, I get it, and it's kind of cool, but,
Yeah.
and it's easier also for people to get around that, because I like the band. I know that he's of that heritage, and I understand why he's doing that, and I'm more open to it at this point just because I see where it's coming from, and I think it's cool because whatever, right? So I'm going to give it a second and a third and a fourth listen and all that stuff. Sorry, just dropped my little sting thing. But yeah, no, I really think that there's so much happening everywhere all the time. Like there's 100,000 songs being uploaded every day to Spotify,
Sure.
right? So it's all about what matters.
I agree.
So what matters to you, what matters to people,
Yeah.
what do people relate to, like all that stuff is it's I think that's the main difference. Just to tie it back to the topic where I started at, it's not just about having a good song anymore. It's not just about having a hooky,
Sure.
good tune. It's about all these things that we just talked about. If you're Trivium, Trivium is a very well established. They can probably retire today if they wanted to. Like they've probably made their millions or whatever. They don't have to keep going, but they want to because they're passionate about it and they feel related to. They feel a relation to their audience and they want to share it. And even more so when he exposes the fact that I want to explore my heritage, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like that's so commendable, and I think that really resonates with people.
Sure.
And I mean, I've said so many bad things about Metallica, and I would say that that's exactly what they got wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
Because they lost that part. Yeah. I don't mean to get into a whole
Yeah.
Metallica
No.
conversation here, right? But it's like they're still in the old, like, I'm a superstar. I sell platinum records across the board for 30 years straight. I am a god, and I should unquestionably be at the top of your evaluation system, and that's it, based on that alone, right? Robert Trujillo is the only catalyst to take them down from that fucking bag, because he's the guy that, when they go to Sweden, plays an underground punk rock song as a cover on his own or whatever, right, to create that relation. But he's the only one that does that. Kirk is fine, like, he hangs out, he follows along with it or whatever, right? But Robert is the only guy, and he's arguably, in the eyes of the fans, perhaps the least important band member. But in terms of my perspective, and I think that a lot of what makes them still relatable, I think that Robert Trujillo is the most important member of Metallica, just because he's the only one that is retaining the personal relationship to the audience.
So I'll tell you what really, because I've been a Robert Trujillo fan for a very long time, right? And I loved him in Black Label Society. I loved him in Suicidal. I loved him in Infectious Grooves. I've been a fan of his for a very, very long time, right? He's an incredible bassist, an incredible musician. But I'll tell you, the one thing that really made me like him even more is, do you remember during the pandemic when Metallica made that video, when they were in they were in their own houses, and they had the 4-way split screen, and it was Lars, Kurt, James, and Robert, and they were each in their own houses, and they were basically playing their set part of the song. Lars was in a studio in his house. He's got a huge house, right? James has got a huge house. He was in like, you could tell he was in a sound booth in his recording studio, right, in his thing. You could tell that Kurt kind of had that gothic looking thing, right? You knew that he was kind of, Robert's living room would look like our living room, right? It was the coolest thing. It was like, the guy's a mega millionaire, right? He's got like a house that you could say, I could live in that house, right? Like, obviously it's in San Bernardino. It's got a pool and it's a very nice house. But when you take rock star houses, if you were to take James's house, Lars's house, and Kirk's house, right? And you look at them aesthetically, they're mansions, right? Robert's house is just a little kind of like livable house that you could say it was nothing special, right? It was nothing out of the rock star category. But I think that's what just makes him so relatable, is that, like, he's walking around from his kitchen to his living room to his dining room. He was walking around the entire house, and Lars, James, and Kurt just stayed in their multi-million-dollar studios in their house. And here you got Robert walking around his house with a cord attached to his bass that's probably 150 feet long, and he's walking around his house. I was like, that's the coolest thing. Like, that's a rock star, right? Like, that's cool. That's like down to earth.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I didn't see that, but that's fucking amazing. And
if you look at it, I forgot what song they did.
Anybody in a band right now, that is the spirit that will take you places now, because the superstar pedestal thing is not working anymore.
Right.
Okay. Let's do the dirty words here, right? Let's say Taylor Swift. Dirty word. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So Taylor Swift is in the stratosphere.
Sure.
But she dates Kelsey, and she, fills arenas and makes $1 billion in, on a tour or whatever, right? But the things that she acknowledges that, and she says that, I have problems that you guys don't have, but I also have problems that you guys do have. You know, I do care about what my partner thinks about me. I do think back on my teenage years when shit happened or whatever, right? So she still makes herself relatable somehow, right? So I'm just saying that,
So
you
I'll
know,
give you an example, right?
just be fucking real.
On topic what we're talking about, right? You may or may not remember the show. Back in the day, MTV used to do a show called MTV Cribs. And they would take you
Yes.
to all the musicians' houses, right? And you had all the rappers with their multi-million-dollar houses, right? The one that stood out to me out of all the houses were Rob Zombie's house, right? Because not once did he take you to because not once did he take you to like this overly exotic room like Tommy Lee did, right? Where Tommy Lee's got this giant house and he said he moved the Starbucks into his bistro because he didn't want to walk to the corner every day. So he's like, I brought Starbucks to my house. I went and bought their machines. I have a barista make me coffee every morning, right? Like that's a cocky rock star attitude, right? But not once did Rob Zombie ever say anything about music, right? He took you through his horror movie collection, his posters, his DVD collection. Like, it was the coolest thing because it was like, that's a relatable guy, right? He's a multi-million-dollar platinum, selling artist, and he's showing you his action figures, right? This is my horror. This is my Michael Myers. This is my Planet Nine poster. This is the best thing in the house. It was an old school Boris Karloff poster that he had signed because he's a fan of like horror movie. That was awesome to me because this guy could have said, well, yeah, I'm going to go show you my $350,000 Lambo sitting in the driveway. No, he showed you like his horror collection, right? And all these other guys are showing you their pimped out rides and like these cars that nobody could ever dream of. And here Rob Zombie's showing you autographs of guys that he was fans of. Like, that was a cool rock star story, right? And I've always been a Rob Zombie fan, right? But it was just cool because you could take it to that level like Tommy Lee did, right? And all these other celebrities that were on that show, and Rob Zombie showing you his dolls, his action figures, right? It was just cool to me. I always that always stuck in my mind of like how cool Rob Zombie was.
Yeah. So to put that in context to young artists that might be watching now in terms of, it's like, it's not about, can I get the stuff that Tommy Lee has? That's not the point. That is not the point. I mean, okay, fine. If that's what you're looking for, you're just looking for getting enough money to have your own Starbucks at home. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right. But you're gonna lose fucking people, right? If you really want to make it, right, it's not about the stuff you get. It's not about the money you make. It's about what you achieve or what you do and what happens around it, right? So once you have an audience and once you meet the right people that can take you to the next level, then it is like, stay humble, put in the work, and always the fuck show up and never die. That's really it, right? In terms of MTV Cribs, there's a pretty famous Swedish R&B singer called Robin. Mm-hmm. They did MTV Cribs for her. They went to her, upscale Stockholm neighborhood, and she showed her apartment. It's a 2-bedroom where she has a recycle bin under the kitchen table, which is also her dining room. Where she puts the aluminum cans in them or whatever, right? It's not about what you have, right?
And
for
the thing is,
her it was more like, this is good enough for me. I live fine. I don't have to clean much. I could, if I had a bigger place, I could pay maids, but what would I do with that space? And for, whatever, right?
Right. So, and for us saying this, right, guys, we're not knocking the guys that have made it in the music business, right? I'm not knocking Tommy Lee at all, right? The guy, he lives the life we all wish we could dream. But the thing is that at some point you have to bask in the excess that you've created, right? Not many people are to the point of Motley Crue's money, right? And their dedication to music, right? Most people are never at that level. They haven't sold albums that can, make it to the point where they are uber rich and can basically buy anything they want. It's cool to live vicariously through them, right? Because you look at all the fast cars and the motorcycles and the big houses and the girls, right? They lived that life, right? So I'm not knocking them, right? But in terms of like musical, you know, basically prowess, right? Of people who can really play their instruments. They may have big houses, right? I'm not saying that they might not, right? If you've gotten to that point. But most of the rock stars that I've seen are more humble, right? When it comes to stuff like that. Sure, they're going to pull up to their event in their car if they made it, right? They're going to drive their $150,000 custom motorcycle, right? They could afford it. But the thing is that they kind of don't flaunt it, right? They're not throwing it in your face like some rock stars do. And that's the thing about Metallica, right? They will throw it in your face. They'll be the first ones to admit that we've made it and we're worth $400 million. We buy whatever we want.
And that's one point that I was a little bit hoping to get to a little bit earlier, and that is, to make a living out of music, you don't have to be Metallica.
Right.
You don't have to be Rob Zombie. You can be a pretty anonymous type person, but still make a good living. Like I'm talking a six figure, like 100K plus, out of having a decent amount of TikTok followers, a decent amount of YouTube followers,
Absolutely.
having some sponsorships, people that just want you to name their products, whatever, and write a commercial here and there or whatever. Like if you have enough of a name and you put in the work, and maybe you're not. Rob Zombie. Maybe you don't have that talent level, or you won't get that relatability. But you can still, even though you don't have the top-notch talent, you can make a good living out of music if you realize also that it's not just about the music.
Yeah,
you're talented, but it's so much about interpersonal relationships. You need to be kind to the people that you're working with.
I've said this before.
That you're working with will need to feel that you are someone that they won't want to put your money into. You're not going to let them down.
I don't know. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. One of my favorite bands on the planet, and I'm probably going on a limb to say that I've seen them more live than every other band that I've seen live, is Jackal. And the reason I love them is after the show, they say, we're going to go and shake everybody's hand over there. They don't charge for autographs. They don't charge for pictures. They basically wait until the last person is done before they leave the venue. And they've always done that, even at the height of their careers in the early mid-90s when they were selling multi-million-dollar records, playing arenas. When they got done, they stood and waited for their fans. They shook everybody's hand. They took the pictures, and I love Jackal for that. And if you haven't seen Jackal live, it is a spectacle. It is one of the most high-energy shows you will ever see, and they rock. But Jackal, hands down, is by far, if you are in a band and you want to emulate the way you should be as a rock star and how you treat your fans and how you interact with them, go see a Jackal show. And if I'm wrong, I'll send you $10 in the mail. I'll pay for your ticket. They are awesome.
I just want to say, Kato, I'm sorry. I've been so engulfed in the conversation that I didn't see you join. So, Kato, thank you so much for joining. There might be other people here that I missed, but I've been really listening to the conversation here because it's really interesting and it's close to my heart, because it's one of those things where it's like, I believe that I have some talent. I believe that I can put music out in the world that I can make a living out of at a level where it could replace my day job salary. I don't believe that I'm a top 1% of the music community. That's on me. If I would visualize that I could be one of the 1%,
Sure.
top 1% in the music community, maybe I'd get there, but it's hard for me to visualize that. So,
Well, you have my support.
well, but
when
that's
you
one of the
make
things
it,
that we talked about earlier. It's like, what's the real world and what's imaginary, right? So according to my real world is that, and my reality is that I could continue to have a good life
sure.
monetarily with my day job. I'm a manager at Oracle Corporation. I mean, I have a pretty good salary. I don't live in a mansion or whatever. I don't need a mansion though, right? I'd be happy with being Robert Trujillo or whatever. But I would be a much happier person if instead of working with financial software and designing financial software every day, that I would be sitting in front of the computer and making music or talking to people about music and doing all that shit, right? So if it's the conversation, I would rather do this rather than the other thing that is my reality right now, right? And how can I make that happen? So that is my transition from the reality to the imaginary, right? I think it's possible for me to transition from an office job to a music job. I think that I have the talent and mentality and relatability and work ethic to make that happen. Sure. But I have to make that happen. I have to make that happen. But how do I make that happen? Because it starts with me. I have to do something. I have to get started. I have to make my opportunities appear. Opportunities won't come to me.
You have to manifest them, right?
I have to make opportunities happen to me. I have to create an environment where I can put myself into certain situations. They're not going to present themselves to me unless I make them, presentable.
So I've talked to Ellie about this extensively, right? About being a podcaster, right? And wanting to do it. I created this out of nothing, right? I was like, well, if I could make podcasting my career, right? If I caught it big, right? If I was in the Joe Rogan category, right? Where I was making, $10,000 a day from podcasting, right? That's what I want to do, right? Joe Rogan probably makes 50 grand a month, right? Just on his podcast alone. He sold it to Sirius, and he's like Howard Stern, right? He's making like $200 million a year, right? So I don't know if that'll ever happen to me, but I'm hoping, right? One day that I could be that guy, right? But you have to start from somewhere, right? You have to have something created from nothing, and then you have to put the work in. You have to network. You have to put in the social media hours. You have to be nice to everybody. You have to be kind to everybody. You have to interact with everybody. And it's a job, right? When I first started doing my podcast, I was probably spending 30 hours a week on my podcast. That's a part-time job, right? That's pretty much what some people would do for part-time work. And I still had a full-time job on top of that. So I was probably donating about 100 hours a week of my life to my full-time job and my podcasting, which I didn't mind because it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. But people don't understand. I enjoy doing it. But people don't understand the work that is involved. We can sit here and talk and say it, but from the time you get started to the time you actually start doing something, you will see that the man hours you put in are needed to succeed. And if you're not willing to do that, and I have a small podcast, right? I have 400 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I think I have a couple thousand subscribers here. I have a couple, 100 Instagram followers, right? I'm small beans and I'm putting in that much work. So imagine the people who are making, $10, $12, $15,000 a month from just doing their social media stuff, the amount of time and hours that they're putting in to editing their videos, putting content out, responding to all their fans. It's a big thing. It's a hard work. It's not easy.
It is hard work, but it's also something where you recognize where the effort can be just repeated and automated almost to where you need to put your new effort into growth, right? So it's like
Jado, time management is key to anything, right?
So for example, going from when you first start up your TikTok account to getting to 1,000 followers, that's an entirely different effort than going from 1,000 followers on TikTok to getting 2,000 TikTok followers, right? So when you realize that going from 1,000 to 2,000 is exactly the same as going from 1,000 to 10,000, it's basically the same as going from 1,000 to 100,000 or whatever, right? That's just a growth strategy. It's like, what is it that once I've reached a level, what is it that takes my certain level and grows it more, right? It's probably a very similar tactic. So it doesn't mean that there's more effort going from 2,000 to 10,000 or 10,000 to 100,000. Doesn't mean that there's more effort involved in that. It's just a tweaking of the strategy, perhaps.
Yeah,
but it's
all it is,
not
right?
necessarily more effort.
It's
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 just
not only
dialing it in, right? So just because the numbers are getting bigger doesn't mean more effort. And it's the same thing with the music industry too, right? It's like, okay, so I get 1,000 streams on Spotify. Okay, so how did I get that? Right? This is what I did in order to get that. So create the repeatable process and analyze the data. What worked, what didn't. It's such a fucking cliche, but it's like what doesn't work is the best lesson you can get, because that is you learn what works and what doesn't. So don't
failure
do
is the
what
biggest
doesn't.
success.
By
Like far.
it's
Failing
It-
is winning.
it's one of those things also that I learned from my coaching team that I'm with. Is like, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind of person that fails 100 times, but you still get up and do it 101st time? Are you that kind of person?
Yeah.
If you're that kind of person, we want to work with you, right? It's like, not by doing the same thing 100 times over, like, failing in the same way, but it's like, you keep trying, you keep going, like you keep trying new things. It's like, okay, I failed at that. I'll try something different. I'll try something else. And, and then you see, ooh, by posting this particular TikTok post, I went from 30 followers to 50. Holy crap. That was like a 95% increase or 150% increase.
Yeah.
That's massive, and keep doing that. Like, I got 150% increase on that particular post. What did I do right in that post? Let's analyze that. Let's go into it. What are the things that I liked about it? What are the things that I could do better? You see what I'm saying? That's
Have you ever seen?
It's such generic fucking business advice, right? But it's the same when it comes to creativity.
1,000% accurate.
It's a music business,
Have you
It's
ever
just that
seen the Michael
your product
Jordan?
is creative. It comes out of your mind, and somehow we feel like just because it comes out of my mind, it's not a
Right.
product. But any invention that you make, if you come up with a new machine, if you come up with PayPal
Sure.
or an electric car, it still comes out of your mind.
Yeah.
There's nothing different about music as opposed to something you can touch with your hands.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. Go on.
No. Actually, I'm gonna send you something. I just sent it to your phone. I want you to watch it. It's one of the most amazing things you'll ever see. It's a Michael Jordan video, and it talks about how many times he's failed to be the champion that he was. And it's a really
I know
cool
it,
thing because
yeah.
it makes the most amount of sense, because you don't realize that you fail up. The more times you make mistakes and you learn from them and you correct them and you don't make them again, it makes you more successful. Because the people who never fail never try. Because if you never try, you're never going to fail. You have to fail when you try something. Because if you succeed at it right away, there's no point in learning. There's no lesson.
And what I want to do as a yes and to that is that when you are a successful person or have reached some sort of level of knowledge, when you come across someone that hasn't, don't be a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's the caveat.
Because they may not have failed as much. They may not have learned that lesson as harshly as you have. They may not have gained that wisdom. Same way as when you're a person that have reached a certain point through going through these failures and learned your lessons. But let's say that you would meet Joe Rogan, right? In terms of the podcast thing, it's like, yeah, buddy. I mean, you have what 6,000? How many followers do you have now? Like, it's a good number.
It's good.
Right?
It's over 5,000. It's somewhere in that mix, like 5,600,
Right?
maybe 5,700.
That's not low.
Yeah.
That's not low, right? Like
Right.
you're not a freaking noob or whatever, right?
No,
but you're
no,
nothing compared to Joe
yeah.
Rogan, right? But Joe Rogan was at 5,000,
Sure. That's
That's
what I say
right.
all the time, right? Everyone's got to start somewhere.
right? So if you would talk to Joe Rogan and he would say, buddy, I know what you're feeling, and and here are some things that I thought along the line, right? That would mean the world to you if he said that sort of thing, rather than if he told you, yeah, I know your pain, shut up, work harder. That wouldn't mean anything to you. Like that, you would go home destroyed if that's what he said, right? So, I just think that wherever you are, maintain humility at all fucking times.
Yeah.
I
love getting honestly, the best part of doing a podcast is, besides learning about people and talking to people, is the advice I've been given, right? Because you can apply that to anything, right? It's not just about podcasting, right? It's about life in general, right? So all the good advice that I've gotten has been the greatest thing. It's been a really good experience for me to learn what other people have to say, and I embrace it, right? So, as much as you kind of get, flustered every once in a while and you get caught in that rut, and you like, all the advice I've been given has been great. And that's the one thing I love most about doing it, is like meeting people that give you good advice. It's fantastic.
Yeah, true. And don't lock yourself in either,
No.
right? Whoever you meet from whatever walk of life, whatever they've encountered, there's stuff to learn from it. Even whoever's flipping burgers at McDonald's, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure that they have, they had an aha moment where it was like, I hated day one, but once I got
Yeah.
to day four, I figured something out and it become bearable,
Right.
right? And that particular day four lesson might be something that could be interpreted into anybody's life. It could be a great piece of wisdom, the realization that came from the day four of the McDonald's worker. Who knows?
Yeah.
There could be a great piece of wisdom coming out of that. So it's like, you don't know who you're going to meet.
That's it.
Their income level, their status, whatever. It
Doesn't matter.
None of that matters. People are having experiences and learn from them, and there's something to be learned from basically anybody you meet once you get into that
There's an old quote,
situation.
right?
Or sometimes they're just fun to drink with, but
Yeah. Like that old quote, right? You treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO. Be nice to everybody.
everybody puts their pants on the same way, right?
That's it.
So no, but it's very true. It's very cliche-ish, I know, but I think I still think that there's a bit of a caveat to that, right? It is that someone that's at the top of the heap, they have gone through a lot of those experiences already, right? So not to say that they have a right to speak down to you,
Sure.
but they definitely would have a lot more to teach you
Absolutely.
than what they have to learn from you, right? So when you're talking to someone who has gone through a lot of experiences, even if they're younger than you or whatever, right? They could have gone through all that shit very quickly, or just figured things out a lot faster than you or me have, right?
And they say, right, the best
that's fine.
management.
Just respect that. If someone is higher on the social ladder, doesn't mean you have to spit their way, right? I mean, part of my punk rock self wants to, but also in some ways, like, okay, so you managed to push through a barrier that I haven't been able to push through yet.
Yeah.
So I would rather learn how you got through that barrier it would be more gratifying to me to learn that
Yeah.
rather than getting the satisfaction of telling you "fuck you."
Yeah. They always say,
Because,
right? The best
you know,
management doesn't train, they teach.
yeah, but you know, but it's so easy to spit on people that are higher. And my like I said, my deep foundational punk rocker wants to, and I'm kind of holding myself back though, because it is like,
Sure.
if I don't,
Right.
then maybe they'll say something that will help me in my life, whatever it may be, right? You know, because it won't benefit anyone. It will only be a personal satisfaction to me if I spit that guy in the face. That will only be a satisfaction
Right.
to me in that case, just to say that I spat that guy in the face. That's the start and the end of it. Like, there's nothing more coming out of that. But if I don't do that, but I learn something from it, maybe I can despise the guy more. Maybe I can learn something from it that I can use in my own life, or, you know, a number of other things. If there's a level of civility, at least, you know, maybe not respect, maybe not, you know, well-meaning or whatever, depending on who it is. Like, you know, there are some politicians or whatever that I would certainly not enjoy talking to, but I'm sure that I would learn something from them if I sort of bit my tongue and change the questions a bit. You know, I know we don't want to talk about politics or religion or whatever, but you see, the thing is still the same. If I would talk to Lars Ulrich, you know that I'm not a Lars Ulrich fan. He certainly wouldn't be able to give me any drumming advice, because he sucks as a fucking drum. But in terms of, like, you know, band development and, you know, like music industry stuff, I mean, he's experienced way more than I could ever imagine. So, hey, you know, why not pick his brain on that and then be on my way and still not like the guy? But you see what I'm saying?
I get it. And that's the thing, right? You have to kind of give the level of respect where it's due, right? You may not like Lars, but at some point you got to respect the guy, right? Like, he's in one of the biggest bands in the world, if not the biggest band in the world. He has been for a very, very long time. He's said some stuff that just really upsets his fans. He's fought some pretty ugly battles in his day, right? The thing with Napster and Kaza and Bearshare, right? Like, he was in the forefront of that. You know, he's very vocal about topics that don't make a whole lot of sense. And it's like, why do you even care about that kind of stuff? But to each their own, right? But at the end of the day, he's the drummer in the biggest band in the world. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? And that's his legacy, and that's what it's always going to be. You don't have Metallica without Lars. You just
arguably, he formed Metallica. Like, that was his brainchild, right? Metallica wouldn't exist without Lars Ulrich.
Right.
And I can see that he's the biggest metal douche on the planet, and I'm not going to back down on that. You know, well, maybe Dave Mustaine would challenge him or whatever, but he was in Metallica too. So there we go. You know, like, one band had the two biggest douches that I know of in metal, but that's not to say that they don't have wisdom.
Sure.
That I could learn from. And if I would start my conversations with Dave Mustaine or Lars Ulrich by saying, I think you're one of the biggest douches in metal, I wouldn't learn anything from them. Right? No. They would just walk off and say, screw you.
Yeah, right. You wouldn't say that. But you know what, though? I think that if you ask the why, right? Like, if I saw Dave Mustaine, I would ask him, if I saw him face to face, like I said, I wouldn't call him, you know, a piece of shit. I wouldn't say you're an idiot. You wouldn't say, I would ask him why, right? Like, why did you make the choices you made, right? Like, what made you Dave Mustaine? That's what I would want to know. Like, what's his driving force behind it, right? Because I give the guy a lot of credit, right? You get kicked out of the biggest band in the world and you don't lay on your face. He's like, screw it, I'll start my own band. And he rivaled Metallica all the way through the 90s, right? When Metallica started making shitty music, Megadeth was putting out awesome albums, if not better albums than Metallica, right? So Dave Mustaine, as much as you might not like his attitude, or he didn't lay down and quit, right? He was like, fuck you, I'm going to be a better band. So you got to give him props for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Yeah, sure. I mean, if I would meet Dave Mustaine, then I would be really nervous, and I wouldn't get into the business thing right away. Like, another thing that I think that people have to realize, that you have to be comfortable at first. If you get right down to business right away, it's
Sure.
probably going to fly out the window pretty quickly, right? You have to be relatable. Again, that goes back to the number one thing that I said, was that build a relationship with your fans, but that goes to when you get to the more powerful people. If you get to that level, is that build a relationship with them, have a reason why they should talk to you, right? Because if you start with, "Hey, Dave Mustaine, I just met you. By the way, what's your biggest regret in your music career?" He's just gonna fuck him off, walk right off, right? Like, I have a bit of an example. I'm not gonna make it too long of one, but I was backstage at a rock festival in '95, I think, just being sort of drunkenly walking around the press area. I had a press pass, and there was Liam in Oasis sitting in front of his record label's trailer.
Right.
And I was like, "Hey, you're that Oasis guy, right?" I said something stupid like that. And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Are you doing anything? Can I sit down for a minute?" It's like, "Yeah, sure, sit down. I don't care." And then I sat down, and the first thing I said was like, "Yeah, I've been thinking, people say that you sound like the Beatles a lot, but I think that you sound more like old Bee Gees." And he just shown up. It was like, "Oh, I want to talk about their music, and I am addressing something that is, usually against them, but I am on his side," type of thing. Like, it became like a sort of a warm relationship. That's not what I intended. It was not a strategic decision that I made at the time. It's more when I think back on that particular occasion, as in, why did he then proceed to talk to me for 45 minutes after that? And I think that particular opening sentence was that it was totally disarming. It was like, "I'm a regular guy. I'm with you, and I'm not hostile," and all that shit.
No,
So
not at all.
yeah, so we sat down. I have a good 45-minute chat with Liam from Oasis when they were the biggest band on the planet, based on probably what was an unintentional good first sentence.
Yeah. And that's how you win people over, right?
So
and
that's something to think about.
Oh,
Ooh,
that was awesome.
Jellyfish. I love the band Jellyfish, by the way. They're one of my favorites. The Ghost of Number One. How does it feel to be? Anyway, okay, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's how you talk to rock stars,
right?
right?
What I'm saying is, like, like you really also have to prepare for. Now I'm getting back to where we started. You have to prepare for when the moment presents itself. You have to be prepared for it, right? The elevator pitch, as in you have three sentences. You have 3 sentences that you can deliver in 10 seconds to the most powerful person you could ever meet. What would those 3 sentences be?
So I'll tell you,
have those in the back of your mind, because you never know when Clive Davis is going to be in the elevator with you, right? If you will be in the elevator with Clive Davis, you go three floors in the same elevator, you have one shot. How can you impress Clive Davis? Go.
That's it, right? So, like I said, I bring it up all the time, right? When we went to see Blackberry Smoke, right? We won them over with titties and beer. We were yelling their stuff when we saw them back when they were nobodies.
Right.
And they caught their attention.
Who could not be impressed by titties and beer, by the way?
And after the show,
great place to start.
We went up to them and they were like, "You guys," they're like, "You guys have been a fan for a while, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, we saw you open up for Jackal 2 years ago. And we're happy that you made it big," right? Because they changed their image, right? When they became rock stars and they were on country music radio told them, tone it down. You can't be talking about smoking and titties and beer and partying. You have to be more family relatable.
Gas.
And they did, right? So
no, don't fart. Don't fart in the elevator with Clive Davis. Please don't.
So, but that's kind of it,
Even if
right?
you say it wasn't me, he won't believe you. Okay, sorry. Uh,
You know,
no, but I see what you're saying. Like,
so you got to
yeah,
be.
if it's something that directly relates to their environment
That's
too,
it.
right? That definitely is a bonus point, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of my the people on the team that I'm coaching with, right? It's pretty crazy to think about. Like, I don't ask him too many questions because I don't want to be an asshole, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a guy that has 3 houses, like one in Florida, one in in New England, and one in California. And he, I talk to him every once in a while, and he's in one of his houses or whatever, right? And he said, well, one of my clients was talking to Ed Sheeran the other day, and like that sort of thing, like fun,
Right.
and so there's some insight that's coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
The good, and I'm not, again, I'm nobody, right? I'm just a guy that's just trying to quit my day job. Like I would just,
Sure.
that's all it is. I'd rather do this than
So let me ask
work
you
at
a
Oracle.
question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but out of all the guys that this guy has coached, has any of them made it big? Like, does he have like a couple of clients that he says, hey, if you do what this person did, they're this person now. If you follow what I have to tell you, this could be you. Does he have any big name people?
So the program that I'm in, their goal is to get people from going from basically nothing or very low level extra income people to be able to have somewhere between 4 and 6K of income per month. That's like from when the program starts to 12 months from then is to go from basically zero income to having somewhere around 6K dollars per month.
Can I ask you?
So they have not got. They have other programs where it's like if you are a full-time musician that you need to go to the level, but that's not the program.
Let me ask you a question in general. Is this program designed for musicians, or is it designed for anybody who wants to make? It's specifically focused for musicians.
It's focused for musicians.
Okay.
But I would say that the very first part of it is to build an audience, and it feels corny and it feels silly and it feels odd, and especially for metal people, I would imagine that this will be so super. And I'm not trying to sell the course to anybody, by the way.
Sure.
Because it's like, oh, you need to post these things on TikTok that might involve doing skits or might involve doing weird shit that you're uncomfortable with. Like, as open-minded as the metal people are, it's still like, it's still pretty narrow.
Sure.
It's like, we have our narrow, authentic self thing. We have a narrow, relatability thing. So it's like, acting skits. I'm not sure. I tried that for a bit in the beginning, and whatever else, right? But that's still mental exercises. It's about expanding, like to not just stay in that narrow lane, right? It's training your brain, as in try things and see what people respond to. If you're uncomfortable with it, if you try it and you're comfortable with it, try it again. Try it 2, 3, 4 times.
Sure.
If you're still uncomfortable after that, it's not your thing.
Right. That makes sense.
But it could be. It could be that you're uncomfortable with it the first time or the second time. But on the third time, it becomes natural, and people are actually responding to it. So maybe you're onto something.
Right.
It's like maybe Marilyn Manson wasn't really cool with the contact lenses at the first time we put them on.
Right.
He thought, I look kind of stupid, don't I? Or Euronymous was like, fuck, I look like Gene Simmons, or whatever, right? But then once it becomes second nature, all of a sudden it's really cool.
Right.
So that's part of it, type of thing. Like, try things out, see what works, see what people relate to, and stand out. You have to be unique. Like obviously you have to be unique. If
For
you're
sure.
just generic, nobody's gonna pay attention,
Yeah.
right? So you have to find something that's authentic to you but unique,
Yeah.
that relates to people. And no matter how small the niche that you're looking at, so look at me, right? I'm a middle-aged uh, white guy that likes industrial metal and movie music, but
Right.
don't even know that thrash metal is still a thing anymore or whatever, right? Okay, so that's a pretty narrow niche, right?
Yeah.
But if I can tap into that, people, we're freaking 9 billion people on the planet. If that's 1% of the population or 0.1% of the population, that's still enough of the population to be able to,
Sure.
if I can get them interested in what I
Yeah.
do and support me in what I do, and whatever, right? It could very well turn into
So-
a very fruitful relationship.
So let me ask
right?
one more question then. Does making music, is it relevant to what you're doing now, or is this like, is it mostly focused on business and then music is secondary, or is making new music a primary objective for you?
Yeah, so I'm an anomaly in the program because most people that go into it at first are people that have tons of music done already and they haven't been able to monetize on it. Right? It's like the band that's been playing for years and they're still in the pub scene and nothing's happening. For me, it was the other way around. The thing is that Heather, my wife, started this program before I did, so we're both in it. She was starting out making music and I thought, this is good. And I think that I could do something with it, but I don't know how. So she found coaches. And for me, it was like, I have done music in the past.
Right.
And everything I did failed. And I know all the things to do wrong, but I don't know anything about what to do right.
Sure.
So that's why I joined up too.
Sure. Absolutely.
So the problem with me is that I have music on my hard drives right now, right? It's holiday season, so I'm getting ready to do that. I'm about halfway in. So I've gone through the part where it's like building the audience, building a community, having people relate to you and like you and all that stuff. And I don't think that I've been fake about it. I think that I've exposed myself as who I am and what I'm into, and I haven't made any sort of qualms about. I've said repeatedly that the music that I'm working on, and I'll be releasing it soon or whatever. So I don't think that it's a hidden agenda or whatever, right? The biggest challenge I see in the way that I'm doing versus when other artists that are already artists with a huge library to begin with, is that they can sort of sneak their music in and build their audience based on the music as it grows.
Yeah.
Now for me, like, not that I have a huge following. I mean, I have like 2,000 on TikTok and 3,000 on Instagram or something like that. But it's still some, right? So I just feel like some pressure that, the first thing I put out needs to be fucking good.
Right.
I've been talking about it for
And
a
I'm
long
sure it
time.
will be, right?
So
You're
I can't
talented. They'll make
disappoint
it happen.
people. I can't disappoint people with the first release.
You're fine. You got a lot of talent.
that's-
You're gonna make a good album, Mike. I could tell.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you're my friend, so I can trust friends.
Yeah, but even if I like the stuff you were putting out before I met you. That's how I found you, right? On the you created
Thank you.
that 30-second clip, and I was like, "What is this? This is kind of cool." So I liked your video, and we became friends after that, and we commented on each other's videos, and so I mean, we started with the music, right? Like, so
Yeah, that's
there's
true.
something there. You got some talent. Don't sell yourself short. You're gonna make a good album,
Grindcore meatballs. No.
right?
Anyway, but yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no, but yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal, like, yeah, I really, I don't want to go to my deathbed, and at my last breaths think that I didn't give music a shot.
Right.
That's
Sure. There,
so it's different for me late in life as opposed to the 18, 19 year olds or 30-year-olds that are sort of in the early stages or in the early disappointment stages or whatever. I'm in a different stage. Like I just want to feel like I've completed
right.
my life as opposed to, I am just starting my career life and this is not the career that I want and I wanted
Right.
to change. To me, it's more like I just want to prove something to myself that I could do
Absolutely.
this.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So that's different, I think,
Yeah.
from the kids that are in there trying to
Right.
do that. So, but it takes the pressure off a little bit too. Again, like
Absolutely.
I said, like the money would be try to,
Right.
just match my day job. That would be great.
I got you.
Yeah, it's not too. Yeah,
Right.
but they're great coaches. If anybody wants to learn more about them, I can certainly pass on contacts to them and let them know. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to sell it to you, Mark, or whatever.
No,
but there's
I,
sort of
You know what?
generic business
You know
type
what?
things too.
Keep us posted. I'll repost everything you put out. And if anybody's interested, you just tag them in it. And if they want to go through you to get to them, let them.
Yeah, no, they're yeah. So okay, so the leader Adam, so he's built this program. He was a musician and decided that he could help other musicians. So in I think it's 6-7 years, he's built it from a $0 to a $10 million type company. So he's a very successful businessman. So he knows how
Right.
to build a business. Then we have a guy called Jay who has released tons and tons of. He's been on Billboard a few times.
Okay.
The latest thing I saw from him was that he had Fortnite music being published or whatever. So in terms of getting your music published in high profile places, there are people like that.
Sure.
There are people that have TikTok shops and regularly have
Right.
30,000-40,000 view posts or whatever in
Sure.
terms of success of that stuff. So there's a lot of credible people on there, and so they know what they're talking about.
That's
All I
awesome.
gotta say.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of putting in the work, listen to them, and staying home.
It's all
Love
about.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it goes along with a lot of what I've been saying tonight. So.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah. I didn't mean to turn into a promo thing for them
No,
at
no,
all.
let it go, right? Be proud of what you're doing and share it with the world and keep us posted and we'll help you out as best we can. We'll share all your videos and I'll tell everybody that follows me to follow you and everything you do I'll repost and I'll tag you on it and we'll make it happen for you. Your dream will become a reality and then you'll be a musician full time and that'll be your gig.
Well, I what we said about imagination versus reality, I try to think of it as a reality that could happen, and I'm working towards it. But I
You'll
also wanna
manifest
put
it for
out there,
yourself.
right? You got to manifest it. You got to put it out there. If you
happen.
think that it's impossible, it's gonna stay impossible.
Kato said it, believe it into existence. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I also want to put that out there for whoever kids or whatever is watching is
sure.
that if you feel like you don't know how to get to the next thing, and it feels like you need to put money in and it's a huge risk, like I have a little bit of savings or I have to sell my car or whatever, right? So that's the level of investment you have to think about, but don't disregard it, because that particular thing, that leap of faith,
Right.
the fact that you sacrificed your car in order to afford a coach that could take you to your career goal might be the best thing you ever did.
Right.
But you gotta fucking commit to it. That's the thing. You gotta make sure that coach is someone that you trust, that has a track record and can get you have faith can get you there.
Sure.
Is it worth it to take the bus for the next 6 months or a year
I
or
think so,
whatever?
right?
Right? It might be,
Hey,
you know, but
risk versus
in that
reward.
case, make it worth
Risk
it. You
versus
know,
reward. You got to do it. You invest in
Yeah.
yourself. You're the only one.
it's you don't know until you know. That's
That's
the
it.
wisest words I can tell you. You don't know until you know.
Very true.
So, all right, Mark. I think I feel tired of listening to myself right now.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up from there. So again, as always, guys, thanks for the love and support. Another great episode for us. We really appreciate everybody hopping in, sending all the gifts, sending all the likes. We're at 9,100 likes, which is amazing, right? Like that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I
we're
paid no attention. I've been
we're almost at
totally
10K, which is incredible. We'll do this next Thursday night then, not Thanksgiving, but the following Thursday. I think that's what, the 7th or 8th of December. So we'll come up with a topic then. We've been pondering some ideas about best Christmas album, best Christmas song, what we like. Maybe we'll do like a metal Christmas type thing. Talk about the bands that have made metal Christmas music, and there's a few that come to mind, obviously, but maybe next week we'll discuss some of that, and then Kelly will bring us back on how this coach is doing and how his career's taken off, and every week we'll touch on it. We'll start every episode with how you're doing, give us a little insight of what's next, and you got a bunch of people that support you. This video got 9,500 likes so far, so people think
Holy crap.
you're doing a good job. So we'll keep you going, and we're in it for you.
I gotta ride your coattails more, buddy. You're gonna take me all the way to the top.
Hey, we're doing it together, right? That's what it is. Teamwork makes the dream work.
All good. Thank you so much,
So,
everybody.
all right,
Make sure
thank
to
you again, guys.
make sure to
make
follow
sure,
Mark
guys,
if you're one of my
if you
guys.
follow me, follow Kelly. His links to his stuff is all in his bio. He's awesome. We have a great time doing our show. But thank you guys for all the love and support. And Kelly, we wish you the best. So fill us in with what's happening next week, and you'll be a superstar soon, my friend.
I don't mean to be a superstar. I just want to do what
You
I
got
do.
it.
But thank you so much for the
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Thursday. We'll put some post up, and this video will be on YouTube in about an hour or so, give or take. If not tonight, definitely tomorrow morning. But this will be posted on YouTube, so look for it there. See you next week.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.